So I came across a Candace Owens video, and she was talking about how a Google employee was fired. And the reason that he was fired is for not being inclusive enough. Right? And then he came out against it and he was like, no, that's not what happened. What happened was we were at a work get together and his superior was intoxicated and she started groping him.
I remember this article.
And he said, I'm not into this. I'm a married man. And she was like, come on, I know you're into Asians, because he's married to an Asian. And she was like, my marriage is lackluster and all of these other things. This man got sexually harassed at the workplace.
And then fired.
And then got fired because he wasn't inclusive enough.
Yeah. Can you imagine the lawsuits that are following that? I want to see how those play out because it's Google. And
Right.
Alphabet's going to settle out of court. They will absolutely settle out of court.
There should be very strong sentencing for women that make false allegations, who false accuse, because men's lives are being ruined. So I think what should happen is that if you accuse somebody of rape, whatever sentence that rape would hold, you should have to serve. If there is clear-cut proof that you made it up, you should have to serve that sentence. And what I will say is I do know a girl who falsely accused a guy of rape, and she did it because she wanted to get back with her ex, and she thought it was a good storyline. And it was absolutely disgusting. And I am no longer friends with that girl to this day. And you know what? And I was so young then, but I should have had the courage to call the police and have told them that, hey, I do think that she's lying. I can't say for certain that she was lying, but it was a little suspect to me. And I do believe that she did it to get back with her ex. And it worked.
Could we talk for a moment about Me Too? You've rejected the idea that we should always believe the victim in a rape
Well, that's
accusation.
obvious. That's what happened in the lynch cases in the 1950s in the United States. The victim was always believed.
Yes, and I was going to say that's fair enough. But why not accept the situation as being the victim deserves to be treated as if she's telling the truth in our attempts to get at the truth, and in doing that, we do our best not to re-victimize her.
Because that isn't how the adversarial system works, and I don't think
But
that we
why
have
not advocate for that?
Because
Rather
the
than
adversarial system is a very effective judicial system, and it's certainly the case that among crimes that are falsely reported, rape crimes are at the top of the list. So there is no believing the victim. There's no reason for people to assume that when they enter the criminal justice system that they're going to be treated with kid gloves or treated.
On this one, Candace and I agree. While the women who falsely accused them get off, guys are rotting in prison for crimes they did not commit. False accusations would cease completely if there was legislation requiring those who make them to serve the same sentences as their victims would have. You make up a charge of rape on someone, you have practically got stolen years of their life, and for that you should be staring at the same punishment they would have received. The maximum punishment for making false charges should be imposed. There should be no parole or early release, just straight time. Men's lives are destroyed by this injustice, and it becomes more difficult to accept those who actually suffer assault. Everyone loses, and since real perpetrators frequently escape with a slap on the wrist, false accusers need to suffer the same, if not more severe penalties than true offenders. Why on earth would anyone risk even the smallest encounter that could hurt a delicate ego and cause such an accusation when a false charge can ruin your job, empty your bank account, and rob you of your freedom? Let us face it, these days the stakes are really high. All it takes is one mispronounced word or misinterpreted gesture, and before you know it, your life is falling apart and you have to defend your innocence. With that kind of risk, why take a chance? There is reason to be afraid. It is not only about becoming wrongly accused of major offenses like harassment or misconduct, it is about how fast everything in your life can change drastically. The consequences are severe and immediate. You drown in legal bills and public disdain, your reputation plummets, and your employment opportunities disappear.
You are straight off the stage where you were just talking about Lean In and a new study you've just released indicating that women are actually having less access to mentorship and to their bosses than they were even a year ago. What's going on here?
Yeah, it's really important. So today we just released a Lean In SurveyMonkey study that shows that 60% of male managers in the United States are afraid to do a one-on-one activity with a woman, including having a meeting. I mean, can you believe that? 60%. A senior man is 9 times more likely to hesitate to travel with a woman and 6 times more likely to hesitate to have a dinner with a woman. And the problem with that is women already weren't getting the same mentorship that men were, particularly women of color. And no one's ever gotten a promotion without getting a one-on-one meeting. And so I think men and women need to be able to travel together. They need to be able to go to meetings together, go to meals together. All of that can be done in public spaces. But those one-on-one conversations, and if there's a man out there who doesn't want to have work dinners with a woman, then he shouldn't have work dinners with a man. You know, group lunches for everyone, if that's how they feel.
It seems like the movements of the past year or so, the Time's Up movement, Me Too, have actually had real negative implications for many women in the workplace. What's your message to corporate America about this?
So I don't believe they've had negative implications. I believe they're overwhelmingly positive because half of women have been sexually harassed. But the thing is, it's not enough. It's really important not to harass anyone, but that's pretty basic. We also need to not be ignored. And so my message is, if we want to change workplace dynamics, you know where the least sexual harassment is? Organizations that have more women in senior leadership roles. And so we need to mentor women, we need to sponsor women, we need to have one-on-one conversations with them that get them promoted. This number's moved up. Last year it was 46% of men were afraid to have that one-on-one meeting. Today it's 60%. Both are totally unacceptable.
Did you know 60% of male managers say they are uncomfortable working alone with a woman out of fear of complaints of sexual harassment? Women in the workplace. Men, do not avoid working with women because you're afraid of sexual harassment complaints. That is gender discrimination. To avoid sexual harassment complaints, do not sexually harass people.
If I was a man, and I'm not a man, but if I was a man, I wouldn't hire a woman. I wouldn't do it. And I say it all the time, and I say that, and that is something that women need to consider when they're talking about this stuff. When you are saying that a man complimenting you and saying, I really like your outfit today, is a form of sexism. If you're a man, why hire a woman, right? So you fought all this time to be able to get into the workforce, only to say these are going to be the rules. You know, if you say anything, even if you compliment me, if you look at me, anything, I'm going to have a reason to fight you. And by the way, you're going to want to settle and pay me because even just the stain of an accusation is enough to ruin men. So if you're a guy, right, in this society, in this Me Too environment, in this litigation-rich environment of misogyny and sexism and all of these claims, what is the value add? What's the risk? You know, the benefit and the risk. I can't do the analysis and say.
I have a team of people. Everybody who works for me right now are men. I've noticed if I hire someone and they're female, I have to be careful about how I talk to them, even giving criticism. And maybe it's me, but I feel like I have to be a little bit nicer, a little bit more gentler. Whereas with a dude, I can be like, can you just not do this again? And they're like, yeah, no problem, won't do it again. But if it's female, I'm like, okay, you did like this a little bit wrong. Here's how to do it a little bit better. Overall, you're doing a great job. Everything's fine. Please don't be upset.
This concludes our A4 anonymous coverage for the day. Click that like button, please. Make sure you hit that notification bell in addition to subscribing. Leave a comment telling us what you think. Have a great day tomorrow.